that in a broader way. Comments or questions?
Yeah, many thanks, Alan, for this interesting talk. There's a question over here.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. That was a very interesting talk. In the first keynote in the conference, there was a slide which said something about digital transformation. All the executives are talking about it, but there's no consensus on what it actually means. So I'm interested in your take on that term.
Okay. So broadly, I agree with the comment that lots of people talk about it, they're not sure what it means. I tend to deal with 2 or 3 things when somebody says digital transformation.
Thank you.
The first is digitization, moving towards more digital assets. So lots of organizations have gone through that, some are still going through that. And it's not just moving a physical form to PDF to online filling in. It's more than that. It's thinking about your organization, your assets, your operations from a digital point of view. So there's digitization, digital technology. The second is, as you think about those digital technology, it changes the business processes. It's not, when I bring a form, for example, online, I don't just change the fact that I don't print. I change the way in which I do verification. I change the way in which I can do analysis of this. I change the real-time nature of this, my ability to understand what's going on. So the second phase of digital transformation is, how is that changing the processes that you're operating around these digital assets? Then the third bit then says, given that you're doing that, how does that change the broader scope of the organizational activities, the opportunities you have to do things? If I now can get access to this information more quickly, and I can run analysis across this, can I use that information for new things? So maybe the very fact that I've got new insights, those insights are more valuable to me than what I was originally doing. And gaining more of those insights might be more of a focus than what I want to do. And then finally, given I want to do that, is my organization optimized for operating in this way, from a contracts point of view, from a business point of view, from a hiring point of view? So all of those are business transformation, digital transformation activities. And often when you get called into, we're going through a digital transformation, they're going through one or more things that fall into those categories. And you have to somehow build a landscape that helps you to understand that.
Okay. Thanks for the inspiring talk. I enjoyed it. And let me mention a couple of my personal encounters, and then I'll ask a question.
Please.
First, 5 months ago, I was in Beijing, and I was visiting. I tried to get food, and I went to the bar of the place, find a food store I like, and it turns out that I cannot pay. They don't take card, they don't take cash. All they take is a QR code. So I had to eat elsewhere. And then I explored it a bit. Turns out the young people in China, they don't bring anything except their phone.
Yeah.
No money, no cash, no cards, and just the phone, and they go everywhere with that QR code scan. So that's interesting. Even street beggars, they have QR codes on the street, and they just, hey, you scan and they donate. Anyway, second encounter is back to home in California, and my water district failed their system miserably, and they failed to send a single bill out in 6 months. So the system is in horrible shape. So now my question is, what you talk about is really fascinating, very interesting. Innovation is nice, experimenting, learning is all nice. But to implement some of these ideas, we have to deal with legacy systems,
yes.
Legacy, the platforms. So the question is, how can we kind of have a realistic idea to have assessment of whether the system should go or we should keep, because this is no longer a very clean-cut question. Like 100 years ago in World War I, personal armor is going to be replaced by tanks, and this is a clean-cut decision. No think about it. You don't need to think about it. But now it's very difficult.
Okay, so it's a deep question. So let me just give 2 perspectives. One is on the first part about the different sorts of payment methods and so on. Often when I'm asked about digital transformation and new digital business models, the place I start is around 3 words: risk, value, and trust. Forget all of the other conversations for now. Let's go on those 3 things: risk, value, and trust. What's happening now about those three things? Completely different ways of thinking about those three things. Positively, negatively, there's all sorts of... So just, if somebody comes to you and says, I want to talk about digital transformation, start with those three words and ask what's going on, what's happening in their industry, what's happening to them, what's happening to their people, what's happening to the environment in which they're operating. And those three things will get you into some really interesting conversations. As, you know, if we were continuing this dialogue about what your experiences were, they would be great ways into learning a bit more about what you're saying. The second thing is about legacy. The word legacy, of course, now has negative connotations, but you know, IBM, for example, still makes most of its money on kicks, transaction processing system, COBOL compilers, selling large tin to people in data centers. You know, that's how most businesses are still run. If Kik stopped running, most people in the world wouldn't get paychecks. Now, those are the kinds of things that are still operating and still will operate for a long period of time. The challenge always is, how do we use those effectively moving forward? How can we use those as, you know, shoulders on which we build rather than anchors that are holding us back? And I think there's a massive debate going on right now about how to do that. It's always a challenge to say, it's easier if we just sort of put a cover over that and start again. But the world isn't as convenient as that. And a lot of the work going on right now is about that redesign of existing systems and using those systems effectively. But it's a long conversation for sure.
Okay, thank you. There is, I think, maybe one final question.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for this presentation. I'm working for CA Technologies. CA Technologies is a company that is helping industry, our customers, basically to go through this digital transformation. We are also trying to transform our company. We have recently created an accelerator program, which is basically using this idea of lean startups to help entrepreneurs in our company to bring ideas and to generate new business models. We are trying to move some of these ideas to research. We have adapted and created a research link canvas. We are trying to see how we can do 3 peer reviews related to research. And definitely, as you were saying before, there is a big challenge related to cultural change. But there is another even bigger challenge, which is that, well, first of all, some facts, which is that companies that collaborate with universities, there is a correlation between collaboration with universities and revenue. And then the question here is, how do you manage all this when you have multiple organizations with different objectives? How do you create environments where you can still be agile when preserving this collaboration between different types of organizations?
Yeah, again, another deep question. I used to work for CA. At one point, I was product manager for Irwin and all of the design products, which was an interesting ride. And the challenge there in CA, in IBM, in other corporations with their relationship with businesses, it's very easy often for them to separate R&D from the day-to-day operations of the business. So in IBM, for example, there were 4,500 people at the time I worked there in the research group. Working in one of the business divisions, the worst thing that could happen to you is 2 smart guys from TJ Watson show up on your account. And you think, my account's dead. Because 2 people with the smartest brains in the planet are going to fly in, tell them how everything we've been telling them for years is wrong. They'll half-build a system in 3 days that looks unbelievable and does all the things we told them couldn't be done. And then they'll fly out and leave it with us. And we're screwed. Because we don't know what to do now. We don't know how to work. And we would actively stop research people coming to our accounts. And that, of course, is exactly the wrong behaviors, but it's done for very practical reasons. So the idea of moving the focus of attention from the extremes, we've got the guys working in the state of the practice and the guys working in the state of the art, and we don't let them talk, to moving them towards how can we make sure that there's a bridge and a transition, and how can we ensure that there's a relationship, not just looking inwardly, the R&D group, the business units, but also externally towards universities, towards other sorts of research organizations, delivery organizations, startups, accelerators, and bring them into a community is a big focus right now for CA, for IBM, for others. And they do this by building things, investing, acting like VCs at times, building their own accelerators and working in existing accelerators, trying to get R&D organizations to do more first-of-a-kind projects in collaboration. There's a whole range of things that are starting to be brought together. Again, there's a lot of dynamic activities going on here. Some things going well, some things not going so well. But I think there's a big exploration around that bridge and how that bridge works. And I think that's a very positive move. And I'd encourage you all to try to be part of that debate, because I think that is about the future of our industry and of our business and of society.
Alan, at the end, can you make a little bit more explicit what is the impact for this community, for the business process management community? Because we're also discussing what is the future, and the question, for instance, is should we spend more time on new foundations, new business process modes, or more on management, how to introduce a new business process into companies? What do you think? What should the people do in this community?
I say it's not for me to tell you what to do, but let me give you a few opinions of things that I find interesting. I think starting to think about the dynamic nature of businesses and business processes is really interesting. So a couple of things where I've been asked to come in and say, help us with digital transformation. And I say, what does digital transformation mean to you? Well, we're going to upgrade our ERP systems and our back office processes. Okay, so that's what digital transformation means to you. Yes, because if we don't get that in place, everything else falls down. Because in the end, depending on the organization, we've got to be able to manage our people, bill our customers, take checks, understand process controls inside the organization, understand machinery and operations. If we can't do those things, we're not a business. So we're starting with that problem. How do we understand core business processes? How do we understand what's going on today? How do we introduce flexibility into those business processes? How do we understand the adaptation of those business processes to increase flexibility? There's a huge number of questions that we don't know how to answer. Some of that is about doing some of the extraction, mining kind of approach to understanding business processes. Some of that is about creating new ways of visualizing and managing those processes that are adaptable, that are open to change. And I think some of the things that are around today are helpful in those areas. Some right now are a little too rigid. And it would be great to think about how they could be applied in these contexts, to take some of these example cases and think through how we could help those organizations to realize it. I think too many people in businesses are just shooting from the hip, making this stuff up. And you say, what's the processes behind this? And they cannot show you anything. And that's really dangerous. So I think we've got to try to bring some support and some rigor and some ways of thinking about this that don't overly constrain, but bring some shape to the conversations and the activities going on. And I think that's a huge opportunity.
Okay, Alan, thank you again. And you are here the whole day, so people who have more questions can speak to you in the break. We will start within 3 seconds, because before I give you this nice book.
Oh, thank you.
As thank you for your talk here.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, now you have a very short coffee break of 20 minutes, and then we see you again here or in the other audience.